slowly over the city, casting a soft golden glow on the cobblestone streets. Inside their cozy apartment, Elena was already up, busy in the kitchen. She moved with practiced ease, chopping vegetables for breakfast, the rhythmic sound of the knife hitting the cutting board filling the quiet. She hummed a tune as she worked, content with the life she had built. The smell of fresh eggs and toast began to fill the small space, and Elena smiled to herself. It was one of those moments where everything felt just right, everything was normal. Or so she thought. Elena, now nearing the end of her second trimester, had been feeling a little more tired than usual lately, but she didn't mind. There was a new life growing inside her, a little one who would bring even more joy to her family. Her husband, David, had been supportive, though recently he had seemed a little distant. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but something in his behavior had begun to change. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes anymore, and his late nights at the office were becoming more frequent. Elena didn't mind so much at first. He was a hard worker, after all, but there was a growing unease, a nagging feeling she couldn't shake. She set the table for the two of them, laying out their usual breakfast spread. A small plate of toast, eggs cooked just right, and a cup of freshly brewed coffee for David. As she arranged the plates, she found herself smiling at the thought of surprising him this morning. As she grabbed her purse and left the apartment, Elena's mind wandered to their life together. She remembered the first time she met David, the way his eyes lit up when they'd spoken, how they'd shared a laugh over something silly. They had been inseparable ever since, and she had always believed in their love. Sure, there were tough times, as there always were in any relationship, but they always managed to work things out. She had no reason to think anything was wrong now, but deep down, she felt a stirring of doubt. She walked briskly through the bustling streets, the sounds of Moravka accompanying her every step. The city felt alive, and she felt connected to it, as if it were a part of her. The trip to David's office wasn't far, so Elena arrived quickly. When she reached the office building, she stopped for a moment, taking a deep breath before entering. She smiled to herself, excited to see David's reaction when he realized she'd brought him lunch. The office was a quiet, somewhat sterile place. A few people worked at their desks, their heads bent over their computers. Elena made her way toward David's office, her heart fluttering a little. She didn't expect him to be busy. After all, he'd been working late so much recently. She was looking forward to sure. As she passed by a corner of the office, she overheard voices, a conversation that stopped her in her tracks. At first, it seemed casual enough, but as she listened, Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The voices grew clearer, and she realized one of them was David's. "I didn't expect this to happen. It was supposed to be just a fling," David's voice murmured, filled with regret. "But now we're in too deep." Elena froze. Her breath caught in her throat. She knew those words were meant for someone else, but who? She's pounding in her chest. And then, the voice of a woman, familiar yet foreign. Stomach drop. "It's not just a fling, David." The woman's voice purred with a calmness that made Elena's blood run cold. "You know we're meant to be together. And now I'm pregnant. This changes everything." Elena's knees nearly buckled beneath her. Pregnant. The word ek twisted painfully. She wanted to run, to hide from this awful truth, but her feet were frozen to the spot. Her heart felt as though it had shattered into 1,000 pieces. She took a step back, trying to make sense of what she had just heard. Her mind raced. How long had this been going on? Was this why David whirled around her head, each one more painful than the last? She couldn't believe what she had just overheard. And now, this stranger had everything Elena thought she had with him. Tears filled her eyes, but she forced them back. She wasn't sure what she was feeling anymore. Anger? Betrayal? A deep, gut-wrenching pain she couldn't even put into words? All of those emotions and more. She couldn't heal and left the office, her legs shaky as she stepped into the cool air outside. The city of Moravka felt suffocating, the noise of the streets now deafening. She needed to get away, to think, but all she could do was walk aimlessly, her mind replaying the conversation she had just overheard. Hours later, after wandering the city for what felt like an eternity, Elena finally returned home. She didn't know how to face David. She wasn't sure what she would say, or if she could even speak at all without breaking down. But she knew she had to confront him to demand the truth. So she did. That evening, after David returned home from work, Elena sat him down. Her heart was heavy with earned. She looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger and hurt, and asked the one question that had been burning in her mind all day. David, who is she? The woman you're having an affair with. David's face went pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He looked down, unable to meet her gaze. Elena's fists clenched in her lap. She was done with the lies. She needed the truth, and she needed it now. It's Sophie, isn't it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David didn't answer right away, but the silence was all the confirmation Elena needed. Sophie. Sophie, who had been a part of their social circle for years. Sophie, who had always been kind and polite. So polite, in fact, that Elena never suspected anything. She had trusted her, trusted David. And now, Sophie had betrayed her. Worse still, she was pregnant with David's child. Elena stood abruptly, her chair scraping harshly against the floor. She felt her breath catch in her throat, but she couldn't stop herself from speaking. Why, David? Why her? After everything we've been through. David stood up too, his voice shaky. Elena, I never meant for this to happen. I don't know what to say. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Before he could continue, Elena snapped. I don't want to hear your excuses. She turned away, her emotions a whirlwind inside her. She needed to get out of this. She thought she knew. She couldn't even bear to look at him. That was when the doorbell rang, and a voice called out from the hallway. David? Elena? Are you home? It was Sophie. Elena's blood ran cold. Without thinking, Elena stormed down the hallway, desperate to confront Sophie, the woman who had stolen everything from her. She flung the door open, her eyes filled with fire. What are you doing here? Elena's voice was. Sophie stood there, her face a mask of fake sweetness. I came to talk to David. Before Elena could say anything else, Sophie shoved her aside, pushing her roughly down the stairs. The shock of it knocked the wind out of Elena, and she tumbled down the steep staircase, her body crashing painfully. Mia stood frozen, her small face pale and terrified. She had witnessed everything. Before we continue, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts so far, and most importantly, subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next. And hey, share this with someone who loves a good twist. Alright, let's get back to the story. And a dull, ache spin was blurry at first, and it took her a few seconds to register where she was. The smell of antiseptic and the soft beep of a heart monitor brought her back to reality. Hospital. She was in a hospital. Her head throbbed with a heavy pulse, and her reassuring smile. I'll be okay, sweetheart, Elena lied, doing her best to sound convincing. I'll be okay. As Mia stayed by her side, Elena's thoughts raced. Sophie's betrayal wasn't just a shock. It was a devastating blow to everything Elena had believed in. She had loved David, trusted him, and believed their family was solid. But now everything was shattered. Was that her daughter, Elena wanted was for Mia to be part of this drama, caught up in the mess her parents had created. Saw in his eyes when he visited her in the hospital made her uncertain. Had he truly? The days passed slowly, with Elena spending more time in the hospital than she'd anticipated. Each day, David visited, but there was a distance between them that hadn't been there before. He seemed genuinely concerned for her, but she could see the conflict in his eyes. Guilt, shame, and perhaps something else, fear. Fear of the truth. Fear of what would happen when the full extent of his betrayal came to light. But Elena wasn't sure she was ready to confront that just yet. Not when her body was still healing from the fall. Back at home, Elena's thoughts drifted in 1,000 different directions. She tried to focus on the physical healing that her body desperately needed, but her mind was a whirlwind herself again. The sense of powerlessness, of being at the mercy. One evening, when Mia was with her grandmother, Elena took a deep breath and called a counselor she had been secretly researching online. She had always prided herself on being strong, on it was different. She couldn't navigate the storm of emotions, fear, and betrayal alone. The first session was difficult, filled with tears and raw emotions that Elena hadn't